This is the Louie T Network.
Man, I love some football. Man, I love some football. My favorite week is week 1, cause I'm watching football. First comes the preseason, and I don't take a day off. And then it gets even better when your team makes the playoffs. 32 teams go hard for one thing. They work for one thing. That Super Bowl ring. 32 teams go hard for one thing. They work for one thing. That Super Bowl ring. We in the lab room.
Louie T, welcome. You are in the lab room. Of course, I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Week number 6 in the National Football League. Thursday night football to attend to. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm a little excited for this game. Normally, I don't get amped up for AFC South action. I just don't. I mean, it does nothing for me. I'm a football guy, so I'll consume it anyway. But normally AFC South football doesn't move the needle for me. I watch it because I have to. I watch it because I'm a football fanatic and I don't have any other choice. But this week, tonight, I'm excited, man. I want to watch this football game. And we'll jump into the Thursday night showcase here in a second. Later on, we're going to jump into a little bit of supply and demand, so stick around for that. But let's jump into this Thursday night showcase, shall we? And I'm excited about this game. I really am. And it's Colts on the road against the Houston Texans. And this is a huge statement game within the AFC South. Both teams are 3-2 coming into this game. Texans started off the season red hot, winners of 2 straight to start the season. And then they hit a little bit of a bump in the road, was able to bounce back against the Buffalo Bills a week ago. And then they came off of that win and hit another bump in the road last week on the road versus the Dallas Cowboys. So now they're 3-2 on the season. Meanwhile, the Colts took a totally different route to get to 3-2. They started off the season 0-2, the inverse of what the Texans started the season off at. And then they just proceeded to win 3 in a row. Always helps when you can get fat off your division, and your division is one of the worst in football, with the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars, 2 blowout victories for these Colts. But again, you can't worry about that. All you can do is beat the teams they put in front of you, and that's what the Colts have done to this point. Then they get a huge win at home versus the Baltimore Ravens. Very sloppy football game, but a win nonetheless. Got to be able to win the pretty ones as well as the sloppy ones. Colts were able to do that. So now both of the teams find themselves at 3-2 heading into this matchup. And this is a big game for not just the Indianapolis Colts looking to get into first place for the first time all season long and try to reclaim the throne that was theirs a season ago, which was the AFC South division. But for the Texans, I think it's more important for their psyche to win this game than it is the Colts, because this is a home game, number one. This is in front of your fans. This is your chance to dethrone the Indianapolis Colts on your home field turf and take back what you feel is rightfully yours, which is the AFC South crown. Now, I still feel like the Texans are a fraud, but the bad part about the whole situation in Houston is that I actually like this team. I like what they do. They run the football. Did you see Arian Foster last week? Foster, Australian for running back. The kid was running the football. He turned back the clock on us last year. That was 2012 Arian that we got against Dallas last week. Sticking his foot in the ground, one cut and go, leaving guys in his dust, in his wake, and accelerating past defenders. What did he have? A buck 64 on like 27 carries? He was outstanding. Outstanding. He was outstanding last week. And if not for some skittish play by Ryan Fitzpatrick at times in that game, they probably beat the Cowboys last week. But that's nor here nor there. The fact of the matter is, he looked good. This defense is still good, people. This defense is still one of the better defenses in the entire National Football League. And of course, they got my man, Justin James Watt. And I love watching that guy play football, man. One of the most dominating forces we've seen in the front seven in the entire National Football League in a while. I mean, this guy wreaks havoc from defensive tackle, defensive end, you name it, he does it, swats down passes, picks them off, gets to the quarterback, stops the run, tackle for loss. You name it, he does it. And I just love watching him play football. So you put those things together, solid defense, dominant player, and a running game, you're supposed to be able to win a lot of games in this league. But when your quarterback's name is Ryan Fitzpatrick, some of those things get canceled out. And that's what I want to see tonight. Can Ryan Fitzpatrick do enough? Can he get out of the way long enough to allow this Houston Texans team at home to beat a really good Indianapolis Colts team? And if you're the Indianapolis Colts, let's talk about them for a second. If you're the Colts, last week was very sloppy and one of those type of games that you need to win, and you did. But looking at that in hindsight, you can't play football like that. You can't have the fumbles. Andrew Luck can't turn it over. And he was harassed last week. And I think that's the key in this game. If the Colts are going to beat the Houston Texans this week, they have to protect Andrew Luck better than they did last week. I thought the Ravens were harassing Andrew Luck the entire game. He took some shots in that game, and he actually got up slow. After one scramble, he took a shot to the ribs. I was afraid he was about to have a Cam Newton situation where he was going to have some cracked ribs, because he took a shot on one scramble when he went down head first instead of sliding. He took a shot, and C.J. Mosley uncorked one on him, and that ended up being an interception. And he was getting hit in that game. Pernell McPhee hit him a couple of times. Andrew Luck was under duress in that game. So now I say, hey, none of those guys are J.J. Watt. So now you got to ask yourself, can you protect Andrew Luck in this football game and give him the time to spread the football around? We know how generous, in a good way, not in a bad way, not in a sharing is caring way, but how generous Andrew Luck is in spreading the football around to his teammates. And he'll throw it to 8 different receivers 3 times a piece and have, everybody touching the football, and, and having this team be hard to defend because you don't know who's getting the football. Is it going to be T.Y. Hilton? Is it going to be Reginald Wayne? Is it going to be one of the tight ends, Fleener or Allen? Who's getting the football? Is it going to be Ahmad Bradshaw out of the backfield? It could even be Jack Doyle for crying out loud. So if you can give Andrew Luck time and space, he'll find Hakeem Nicks. He'll find different targets, spread the football around, and make it hard to key in on one particular receiver or back out of the backfield in the game. But if he's under duress like he was last week, and he's turning the football over like he did last week, and Ahmad Bradshaw is putting it on the carpet, or T. Rich decides to join in on the fun and put it down and lay it on the carpet, I don't see you going on. The Texans have done a great job this season of 2 things. One, of applying pressure on the opposing team's quarterback. A lot of that stems with J.J. Watt. But, Brooks Reed also does some things. Cushing seems to be a little bit healthy. So they can do some things. But the 2 things they've done extremely well this season is force turnovers and run the football. And if you can do that in this league, you're going to find yourself in football games. And so if you're the Indianapolis Colts, your first initiative in this game, stop the run. I tell everybody who plays the Texans the same thing. Stop Arian Foster. Make Ryan Fitzpatrick beat you. If you can stop the run and force the hand of Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's going to give you a minimum of 2 opportunities to make a play on the football. Now it's up to you to make a play. Now if you allow Arian Foster to run the football and he didn't have to do as much, and they can go play action fake, then you run into problems. Then D-Hop gets free. Then the one and only DRE becomes a problem. And then they have options they can get the football to, and he's comfortable. Now you got to kind of stay on your heels. You can't attack the line of scrimmage because you got to look for the run now. He sticks it in the belly of Arian Foster, pulls it out. All of a sudden, those linebackers freeze. He's got time now. he's going to pick you apart. So you have to stop the run, force him to feel like he needs to win the game, and you'll have all the opportunities that you will need to win this football game. I think it's going to be an excellent game. I can't wait to watch. But I said it before, I'll say it again. I think that the Indianapolis Colts are the class of this division. I think that the Houston Texans have all of the qualities necessary to be a playoff team except the quarterback position. And that is what I think is going to stop them from winning this game. I'm taking the Indianapolis Colts 27-20 over the Houston Texans in this game. I expect this to be our first non-blowout on the CBS NFL split coverage format. I expect this game to actually be worth watching for 4, count them, 4 entire quarters, as this is going to be a fun matchup within the AFC South. We'll break it down tomorrow. Look forward to doing that on tomorrow's program, but we got some more business to attend to today. I'll take a quick break and we'll come back and we're jumping to supply and demand. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me as we jump into our supply and demand segment. Of course, I've got the supply. You tell me what's in demand. And so got a couple of questions this week, a lot more than I had last week. And I had to filter through to figure out which ones I wanted to answer on the air. And I had some really good questions this week. So I appreciate all of your participation and I welcome it and I want more of it. Thank you for all of your participation, and I'm looking forward to more as we continue on throughout the NFL season. We start off with a question from Alan Walker, and he asked, who should the Bills covet in free agency or in the 2015 draft at the quarterback position? This is assuming that you're already giving up on E.J. Manuel. I'm not sure I've given up on that kid yet. I was never an E.J. Manuel guy to begin with, and I'll reiterate that. I was never an E.J. Manuel guy. Never thought that he was a starting caliber quarterback in this league coming out of Florida State. That being said, you spent a first-round draft pick on him. I don't think that 2 years is enough time to decide whether he's good enough or not. I'm not in the camp and in the thinking of taking him out of that position and saying that Kyle Orton is the guy you want to hitch your wagon to. Yeah, for this year maybe, but moving forward, E.J. Manuel needs to be given an opportunity to grow in this league. In 2 years, literally a year is what he's had essentially dealing with some of these injuries. That's not enough time. So I don't think that you need, and again, when's the last time anybody got anything worth having in free agency that wasn't a fluke? Of course, you get a guy like Peyton Manning who has the neck surgeries and the Colts, they move on with Andrew Luck. That's a fluke instance. That doesn't happen often. When quarterbacks like Russell Wilson are up, they get deals before their contract is up. They don't even have a chance to hit free agency and test the waters. They lock those guys up. Just like the Bears did with Jay Cutler, like the Cowboys did with Tony Romo, like the Bengals just did with Andy Dalton. Quarterbacks don't hit the street. So there's nothing out there in free agency. There never is. If you want to go and find a backup like Charlie Whitehurst, knock yourself out. How do those guys normally work out? Not very well. You should know. You did it with Ryan Fitzpatrick. How'd that work out for you in Buffalo? Stay away from free agents at the quarterback position. That's one of the few positions. Unless you're looking for a quality backup, you don't go shopping for starting quarterbacks in free agency. That's never a good idea. As far as the draft is concerned, I'm not a big fan of getting second, third, fourth round quarterbacks. Those guys usually don't pan out in the league. I'm a first round guy. If you're getting a quarterback, and again, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. We've seen it. Russell Wilson is always the exception to the rule. But again, How many guys have you seen drafted in later rounds pan out in this league? You got Andy Dalton, you got Russell Wilson. If you go through the starting quarterbacks in this league, you'll find that the majority of them are first-round picks. You're not going to find a lot of guys that pan out as quality starters in this league that aren't first-round picks. So you kind of rolling the dice when you want to go and draft the second round. You don't have a first-round pick because of the Sammy Watkins deal. So if I were you, I'd stand pat. Wait till I got a first-round pick if you're going to go that route. And just stay with E.J. Manuel and see if the kid can develop. If not, 2016 is always there. You'll have a first-round pick, and then you can try to go and find yourself a quarterback. CF Coasters, huge Carolina Panthers fan, asks the following. How do you reverse the tide in Carolina and return this team to the division-winning quality that they had a season ago? Or is it too late and they should try to retool this thing in the offseason? I don't think it's too late. And you saw some resiliency from this Panthers team last week. I think that this is what I want to see. And I've been saying this since about week number 4. When I watched this team against the Ravens when they were blown out, the thing that was the most disappointing in that game is that they didn't give Cam Newton a chance to win the football game. I thought that they tried to rely on the running game that wasn't present, especially after D-Will got injured early in the first quarter. You were relying on guys that you don't even know. I mean, you got some undrafted guys out there. You just hit the streets and got a couple of guys, and Chris Obanaya and some other guys that you brought in. That's not the way to do this. The way to win, and it was funny, because up until last week against the Bears, Cam hadn't thrown an interception all season long. I don't think people had realized how well he had started out the season. And I think when we start talking about quarterbacks in this league, we overlook Cam Newton often because of the lack of high-quality targets that he has in Carolina. But KB is going to change a lot of that. For those of you who don't know, KB is Kelvin Benjamin. He's going to change a lot of that. But he still needs some more guys out there to throw the football to. It's Greg Olsen and KB leading the show out there at the skill positions for Cam to throw the football to him. And I think you need to give him some more reins. Turn Cam loose. Let this guy win you football games on his right arm. I think he's good enough to do it. I think you have enough targets for him to do it. If guys remain healthy, Jericho Cotchery, Jason Avant are solid, role players. You got KB as the number 1 option. Greg Olsen is a touchdown machine. I say you keep letting Cam fire the football. If it takes 37 attempts in any given game, so be it. But I think you're going to win this season on the right arm of Cam Newton. If you think you're going to be bailed out by the running game, you're sadly mistaken, because as you've seen already, your running back group has been depleted and you're not getting any pressure on the quarterback. I was actually pleasantly surprised last game against the Bears, and Sean McDermott blitzed a little bit more. He's going to have to. You're going to have to find ways to generate pressure. And it was good to see guys getting to the quarterback. K'Wan Short with that huge sack at the end of the game. You're going to have to find ways to get guys to the quarterback. Wes Horton is going to have to step up. You're going to have guys play out of body, have out of body experiences, because there's no Greg Hardy. And a lot of your guys that you were going to count on this year, you had a guy that's suspended for 10 games. He's not going to be able to help you this season, most likely. And so you're going to have to blitz. That's one thing I think you're going to have to do more of. Stop the run on the early downs and blitz and come after teams and force them to make some decisions quickly with the football. Hopefully you can hit home that way to protect that secondary that I think is still a little suspect. And also, I think you need to turn Cam loose. I think Cam Newton is underrated as a quarterback, and I think he is the key to your team offensively. If he's getting it going, and you saw what happened last week. When you came back, it was on the right arm of Cam Newton. And if you're going to win this season, you're going to have to turn Cam loose. And I think that's going to be the way. I don't think this is a situation where, it's too late, we need to blow this thing up and try to fix it in the offseason. Your division is bad. You've already realized that. As subpar as you've played this year at 3-2, you lead the division by a full game. So there's no reason to panic. Your next 3 games are going to be very telling, however. At Cincinnati, at Green Bay, home for Seattle. That's going to make or break your season right there. That could easily be a 3-game losing streak. That could easily be the Panthers showing their championship medal. We'll see which one it is. But great question. I think Cam Newton is the key to everything in Carolina. Q-Bone Football. What up, Q? Good to hear from you, man. He asked the age-old question. Dominant O versus explosive O. Or excuse me, dominant D versus explosive O. Which one you have? Which one you're taking if you had a choice? To me, it's not even up for debate. I take the dominant defense any day over the explosive offense. We saw that play out in the Super Bowl last season. We saw the Denver Broncos, who displayed the most prolific scoring offense in NFL history from the 2013 season. We saw them get exposed in the Super Bowl against arguably the most dominant defense in NFL history in the Seattle Seahawks. And so I watched the Baltimore Ravens in 2000 win the Super Bowl with virtually no offense the entire season, but the defense was lights out. I saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2002 do virtually the same thing. Little to no offense, dominant defense, win the Super Bowl. And I watched the Seahawks. They had more offense than those teams did, but the defense was dominant, and you saw it unfold in the Super Bowl blowout. So I've watched, I've even, as a Redskins fan, had a dominant offense one year when we won the division in 1999, and the defense wasn't up to par. And we got to the postseason, and the defense actually stepped up, but we ran into a buzzsaw that year called the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, and we weren't able to win the football game. And so usually in the playoffs, defense wins you games. Offense usually doesn't come to the party come January and February. Give me the dominant defense over the explosive O any day. You go to Rarely Even, my favorite Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, more affectionately known as Ree. And Ree asks the following. Proud of the Pittsburgh win, but how do we turn this season around? And I kind of answered him half-heartedly online by simply saying, the first thing you need to do to turn your season around is officially name Mike Glennon your starter. That's the first thing you need to do in Tampa Bay. If you're going to turn anything around, he needs to be the quarterback. We've already seen how the movie ends when Josh McCown is under center, and we've seen how the movie ends when Mike Glennon is under center. Two different movies, same team, two different endings. I think it's very apparent that Mike Glennon is the best option in Tampa Bay. So to me, he's the foundation for you winning in Tampa Bay. The next thing that I think you need to do is you need to get more pressure on the quarterback. I think Gerald McCoy has been great this season, and I think he's shown that he's an all-pro player in this league. You need him to have some help, though. You went out and spent money on Michael Johnson. Time for him to start getting to the quarterback. You need to get pressure on the quarterback and have your secondary be able to tee off on teams because of the pressure up front. I love your linebacking core, and it seems like Danny Lansana might be a revelation for you. He's a guy that seems to be playing some solid football. And in the absence of Mason Foster, when he comes back, I think you have even more depth at linebacker, and you know about all the talent you have at linebacker and some of the talent you have in the secondary. Well, if you get pressure up front, that becomes magnified. And so I'd love to see you get more pressure on the quarterback. Whether you got to generate that, and Lovie Smith, he hates blitzing. He doesn't want to blitz. He wants to get pressure with four guys. Well, you paid Michael Johnson all that money. That's what needs to happen. You need to get more pressure on the quarterback. And it can't just be Gerald McCoy up the middle. Because if you're getting pressure up the middle but nothing on the edges, quarterback can just get to the outside. And same thing vice versa. If you're just getting pressure on the outside, no pressure up the middle, quarterback can just step up in the pocket. You need them working in unison. Somebody has to step up on the outside at the defensive end positions. And so those are your questions for week number 6 on the Thursday edition of Supply and Demand. I thank everyone for their participation. Look forward to more participation in the coming weeks. And quickly, I want to talk about a few answers. Last week, I gave you a what if about who would you take as your quarterback. No timeouts, a minute and 2 seconds left. You need a touchdown. Who you taking in the Super Bowl to get you that Lombardi? And here are some of the answers that I received. A lot of participation on this one. So Alan Walker says Matt Ryan. Matty Ice has shown the ability to take his team down the field and get them in the end zone on numerous occasions in his career. That's not a bad option at all. Jared Price said Mike Glennon. He's a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, so you got to excuse him. But Glennon did get it done last week or 2 weeks ago against the Steelers, but I'm not taking Mike Glennon to win me a Super Bowl, that's for sure. Q-Ball Football says Russell Wilson is his man. And after the performance you saw on Monday Night Football versus the Redskins, not a half-bad selection at all. And we saw him take his team down the field in overtime versus the Broncos in week number 4. So that's not a half-bad option at all, if I may say so myself. Jan Norman goes with Peyton Manning, a wily veteran. I don't know if I take Peyton in that situation or not. I don't know. Hey, Peyton showed the ability to do it. That very scenario almost, except for the Super Bowl being on the line. But he took his team down the field against the Seattle Seahawks to force overtime and got the 2-point conversion. So Peyton, not a bad option either, but I don't think I would take Peyton Manning in this situation. Phillip Rivers was the selection of Michael Caine. I love me some Phillip Rivers. And Phillip did this same thing last season against the Kansas City Chiefs. Before the Kansas City Chiefs had lost any games. Remember, they started the season off 9-0 last year. Their first loss of the season came to these Phillip Rivers-led San Diego Chargers, and Phillip Rivers took them down the field and scored in a situation similar to this. So I'd have to agree with Michael Caine. Phillip Rivers, a heck of an option in that situation. And Smoker, 71311, again, more affectionately known as just Smoke. J-Lock, my man J-Lock, 32JL, or J-Lock, and Money Miz 14 all selected Andrew Luck. So Andrew Luck was the most selected player at the quarterback position for this what if question. And I think his combination of clutch play down the stretch and his mobility is what sold people on Andrew Luck. And I must say, we saw it in the postseason last year against the Chiefs. He's got the clutch gene, folks. He's got the clutch gene. He's got the mobility. And I think that's what won a lot of these guys over in selecting Andrew Luck. That's not a bad selection. Not a bad selection at all. And finally, Robbie Sohal said, hey, I'm taking Tom Brady. I'm taking Tom Terrific. He said last season the most exhilarating come-from-behind victory was produced by Tom Brady in that Saints game where he threw that touchdown pass to Kimbrell Tompkins in the back of the end zone. That was a heck of a comeback, but I'd take Phillip Rivers over the Kansas City Chiefs before I take Tom Brady and that memorable comeback last year against the Saints. I'm taking Phillip Rivers against Kansas City in Arrowhead. See, Tom's was at home, and the Saints kind of packed it in. They thought they had already won the game. The Chiefs were undefeated at Arrowhead, and Phillip Rivers stuck it to them with See Ye Ajera Tutu in the waning moments of that game. That was the one for me last year. So all of these are great selections with the exception of Mike Glennon. And so I thank everyone for their participation. I'll take another quick break and we'll come back and wrap this episode on up.
Is your team hot or cold? Is your team trending up or down? Is your team flying below the radar or a visible force on the grid? Whatever the case, we'll do our own NFL power ranking here in the lab room. It's the NFL Power Grid, coming soon here in the lab room.
So I think that Thursdays is going to be the day that I give you the what if. I think I like this format. I think I like giving out what ifs. I think I love the feedback that I'm getting from you on Thursdays. And so I'm giving you another what if today. And this is a tough one. This is a toughie. This one's going to make you think a little bit. Okay? So you've got 82 yards of football field to defend. Okay? Now granted, the score is 24-21. So a field goal ties the game. Field goal ties the game. The offense that you're facing is at the 18-yard line, and they've got one timeout and 54 seconds remaining in the game. One timeout, 54 seconds. They're at the 18-yard line. What defense are you taking to stop that team from getting, first of all, into field goal range to tie the game up, and second of all, from getting in the end zone and beating you? What defense? So let me pose this question one last time. What if the opposing offense is at the 18-yard line with 54 seconds left and a timeout, down 3, 27-24? What defense are you taking to stop that team from getting into field goal range, number one, and number two, getting in the end zone and beating you in the waning moments of the game? That's a big one. That's a toughie. You'll get my answer for this next Thursday when I unveil the next what if question. And I'm looking for your participation all week long, and I'll give out all the responses that I get on the next week's edition Thursday of In the Lab Room. And before I unveil the next what if question and I give you my answer, I'll give you all the answers that were given out to me. So that's the what if for this week. What if your defense is on the field, 54 seconds left, 82 yards of green grass to defend. Keep in mind, you're only up 3. What if you have to stop a team from getting a field goal or into the end zone for a touchdown to win? What defense are you taking? That's a tough question because this season is very young. And I'm talking about this year. What defense are you taking? Hard to really tell whose defense is dominant and whose defense is not. So that's the question I pose to you. What defense are you taking to keep that team from getting into field goal range? That's going to do it for the Thursday installment of In the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. Come back and join me tomorrow as we break down that Thursday night showcase. Texans hosting the Colts, and we jump into the Pick'em Weekly for week number 6. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
In the Lab Room.